That is cranberry juice, in case anybody was wondering. It's not wine. Um, put a two, so I'll know this is the second one. I was talking about the interview I went on in the other one, and then I kind of graduated into what some of the cures that the doctor in the town, and also what kind of jobs. Maybe I should put that down to jobs, 1800s, and I got into some of that kind of stuff. So now I'm going to go into some old English that I had to look up, like really Robin Hood English. I used some old English for the names of the ships that come and pick my heroine and her man to go back to England. I picked them from Old English. I looked it up how to speak Old English because I thought, well, I had the idea about the Old English names for the ships when I was kind of while I was still working. Okay, while I was working on the book, the first book, Autumn, times would come where I couldn't work on that. So what I would do was work on something else. And I actually finished one really good short story. Oh gosh, I can't forget. Forbidden. I think that's the name. I think it's what I called it. And the characters are in love. They tell each other they love each other. They fall in love, but they never say the word love. They never say the word love. But I mean, it's so obvious that they do. So I think that's why I called it Forbidden or something like that. I don't know if I can make it the screen pop up, the open the folder or not while I'm talking on the computer. I don't think I can. And that's how I got the idea. Okay, the prequel is takes place in medieval times. In 13 something. I'm not really sure because not quite that late. Well, because the king doesn't die. The King Richard isn't dead yet. He isn't dead yet. So, and I think he got bumped off like 13 something. I'm not really sure, but it's around in that Robin Hood time. And the legend of Robin Hood has a lot to do actually with the the prequel itself and my characters in the 18 my character that comes from England, my hero that comes from England in the 1800s. And that was some of what I was saying about before about the um about the prequel, about how I use the old English names for the three ships, and one of them means Black Angel, and one of them means, oh, the Robin. I was talking about the Robin Hood legend. The Robin Hood legend kind of goes down um, through the characters to my character that's in England. Not really obviously. I use kind of other names for things, and but it's Robin Hood because everybody knows what Robin Hood is. But I use some different things, and that's what I was saying about the what could be the second part of the book, the second part of Autumn, when they're all in England, and it comes the Robin Hood legend thing kind of comes, kind of sneaks in there. It's really rich. It's really pretty good. And I use the old English names for the three ships that come to pick them up. One of them I can't say them, of course, but one of them means Dark Angel, and that comes from something you'll when you read the short story you'll know. Or if I turn it in, go ahead and turn it into the prequel. I don't know. I don't know at this point. But and the other one means I can't remember what the other two name of the ships are, but I remember the one that's Black Angel. I remember that. So it was really kind of, and I also in the kind of prequel, I don't know. Forbidden was written in Robin Hood time too, because it was something just it wouldn't go away. I'm really interested in that era. I have a book called the year 1000, and they had the same panic we had when we at the year 2000. They thought for sure that was it. It couldn't go much further than the year 1000. And there's really some interesting things in there how the people lived. And I found out that February, which is my birthday month, is called the month of cakes. And I thought that was pretty cool. Okay, I thought that was pretty cool in the medieval calendar. And so I used those kind of, and I think if I do the second part of autumn, I'm thinking of calling it winter. I'm not sure. It's kind of corny, but that's the only thing I can think of because winter is a beautiful time of the year to me. A lot of people don't think so, but I think winter is absolutely gorgeous with the naked trees and like the gray and the different colors like that especially out here. It's just wonderful, just wonderful. And the last couple of days have been really, really cold. Well, chilly, but bright. I love that wet, warm Pineapple Express rain just gets on my nerves. Oh my gosh. And I take vitamin D and everything. So I talked about the Old English. My um journal by my character. Oh, I know what that came from. One of the techniques that I use to really to get into, because you can't have a person sitting around musing and thinking all day. So to get my character, my in Autumn, and we're back to the first book, to get her character to have her thoughts be known, I have her keep a journal. And it's really, really funny because it's hard to not go back and like completely, change the journal around and mess with it and this is too long and what did that mean? I just deliberately kind of misspelled things and stuff like that so it would look real. I didn't break it up into paragraphs, and it's such a temptation when I go back and read it. But um, you don't write your journal in complete paragraphs on one subject and then move to another subject, then move to another subject. And if you're journaling, you're just going boo 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 boo, which is what she's doing. So you don't have a her journal entries are just a jamble, just a mess. And it's the temptation of going back to not over edit it. It's really, really hard. Um, Also, another thing I was going to talk about is spelling things the same. I have the name of an Indian tribe and how and I just couldn't. It seems to me every time I wrote it different. But I've come to the conclusion, and you'll see when you see the word, that A is first in the alphabet and O is second. So I'm changing the name of the Indian tribe so that it's you'll see what I mean. You'll see what I mean because I spelled it different every single time. And I started to get into what you would call a female tribe member, if you would call um, a group of this certain Indian tribe, but what you would call a children. I'm like, okay, linguistically, I'm not going to remember that stuff. So, and that's another thing. You don't remember how to spell stuff. You'll spell something like one way in the front of the book, and then when you get to the, it's like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And also too, along that line is remembering names. Uh, how you spelt the name. I've caught myself as I've gone back at book one that I named people spelt their name different as I went on. So this is a good chance to catch that kind of thing. An editor will always catch that kind of thing, but because you don't think about it, you've forgotten about that part. Um, Also, I found that oh, and like in cities and countries and well, not countries, counties and cities where these people live and what the name of um the it's a tavern in my story. It's called the Boring Cups, I'll tell you that. And there are other places that have names, and you name them something, you forget what you named them, and you came back, and then like along the same along those lines are people. Um, and a couple of people I just kept calling so and so's sister and so's brother, and they come to because I thought they wouldn't need any names, and it just so happens that when it comes down to it, they're more important as far as the story is concerned, because you don't want to have a name for everybody because that's really too confusing. You can say the guy that worked at the store, the guy that did this, or the girl that cleans up for the doctor or whatever, because you don't want to be naming, because you won't remember it and won't make any sense anyway. But a couple of the characters were just minor characters that were just going to be mentioned, but they ended up having a more prominent place. So I had to end up coming up with names for them. And I think I said before, what I do is I go to the baby names and look up a name, because you don't want all your names to start with the same syllable. But all my female characters, their names starts with an M. But that's to honor me. Um, I said about naming stuff and making up names for people, yeah, who become important. A lot of times, a lot of characters, you just think they're just going to be, whatever. And um, they end up being much, much, more important. And you can't keep calling them so and so's brother and sister or the so and so children and stuff like that. You really end up giving them a name and giving them actually a personality. And it doesn't take a lot to give a character a personality. The name has a lot to do with it, but I don't, like you have heroes named Ace, and heroes name um, Rugged or Rock or Stone, and crazy. That's come on, that's a little corny even for me. I picked I try to pick uh just run of the mill like but and also too you have to remember people didn't have the same names that we have now. There were no Dashaunas. There were no Tiffany's. There were no Ambers. We didn't have those names like that. Davon. We didn't have those kind of names. They didn't have those kind of names like that back then. Um, Slave children were called something, and slaves they took their master's last name when they. That's why so many. And when they were free, they named themselves Freeman, or they kept their master's last name, or if they were females and they married and then they had their husband's last name. So, or what a lot of uh slaves did when they were liberated, they just made up crazy names, John Drinkwater and down the crazy stuff like that. And the ones that lived on the Indian reservations, of course, they had their native name. um so that was something else I had to look at to make sure that I didn't name anybody any dated names that were too modern a name. So I really remember that, and the names of things. Um, Another thing that I get into a little bit, as a matter of fact, I thought um, about it not too long ago, that I need to go back and when they go to New Orleans, when my characters go to New Orleans, it's the first time that they get to celebrate mass because they're Catholic, but they didn't. But the church in the town is just like a denominational. They don't have it broken up in these are Pentecostals and these are whatever. I don't know what was going on back then, but so they really they enjoy the Latin, and they enjoy going to mass and stuff like that, and along with religion. Well, religion actually in the my character, my female lead character, my heroine is Catholic because her master and mistress back on the plantation were Catholic. That's why she's Catholic. Most slaves, but it was some kind of made up religion that their master told them to keep them docile. Um, you work hard here and then you're going to go to heaven, when you leave here where the streets are made of gold. So they made up this whole thing to keep the slaves docile, and still that's where a lot of black people have their foundation in some of these denominations and stuff. And the I don't know, well, I know I believe in God, I do, and I happen to be a Catholic. I don't push it on people. I don't care. But um also on the other side of that is also um I wanted a little bit of mysticism, not a whole lot, and I didn't want to and I wanted it to be realistic. They have the natives, well, Indians they call them. They have sacred hills behind where my hero and heroine on their farm were. Behind their farm is because I remember, I think I told you that the land agent sold the land not caring that it was a holy place. And when my character hero buys it, he's like, "Oh wow, I didn't know, it was something like that." So there's supposed to be a spirit living in the hills. I don't let her do anything crazy magic or anything like that, but it's kind of inferred that, kind of the natives kind of go up there and some stuff goes on. You don't know, there's more on heaven and earth than we know about. So that kind of thing. So I got left that um because the church in town, like I said, is, uni. But basically, actually, too, church in a small town like that was the social spot. I mean, they might have a saloon. Well, they did, but they don't. But that's part anymore. But that's part of the story. Um, you had a saloon, something like that. It's kind of how big the town was, how small the town was. The bigger towns, might have uh, a men's club or something like that, but not a place like where my characters live. They have a boarding house. Basically, the town is the church, the boarding house, the saloon, the general store, which is the post office too, the blacksmith shop. It's the jail, and they build a schoolhouse because the kids are going to school in the church at first, and then the kids get a real schoolhouse. And I think that's all the buildings in down in the main town. All right, and then there is a yeah, I said the boarding house, and then there is a um oh, like a row of houses, a street row of houses. They face each other. It's a row of houses that kind of face each other, that are kind of like where the townspeople live. And the boarding house woman, of course, she lives in her home. Oh, and also there's a house that is vacated, let's put it that way, because of the actions of some of the characters there. They end up with this empty building in the middle of the thing, and it ends up turning into a residence with a business at the bottom. But I'm telling you guys too much of it. But anyway, so that's all really basically is in the town. Of course, the farm is to the west of the town. The main street runs north and south, and the road into town, of course, runs east and west. And then on the farm is the farmhouse itself, and the house where the foreman lives with his wife and all their kids. They have a big house there. And then where the Indian man and woman where they live, they of course their house was there first, so their house is really nice. And then of course the barn. She has a canning kitchen. My lead character, she has a canning kitchen. They have a smokehouse. They have the bunkhouse where the men live when it's harvest time. There is a bathhouse, they use in the summertime to bathe. They probably, I don't know, they might can use it in the wintertime too. And I'm trying to think of, oh, in the office, my male character has his own, has his man cave. He has his very own office, because when he was single, he didn't care that his, the farm hands and his men were stomping in and out of the house. In the kitchen basically was his office. Most people have a little office nookie in the kitchen. Um he um so he has his own little, he has his own little man cave. And before he had his man cave, he actually was carrying on, house, his business at the kitchen table. And once he gets a woman, and this kind of thing, and the kitchen is her domain. She doesn't want these guys stomping in and out of, her kitchen. So he fixes up an office and builds it. And of course, like buildings and stuff like that go up slow, but you want, to remember that they go up slow. But I also stick in there that he has a lot of help, because he has like carpenters to come to the farm, and that kind of thing. So, he pays people well. So you can get things done quickly then, if you have enough money and if you get enough hands to do it. So I am at 1928. So I don't want to do much more. I think I'm gonna do maybe two more, and then I'm gonna have my a snack, and then I am going to work for a little while. So I think it's time for a costume change, and I'll talk to you guys later.